Grogu's future in Star Wars may be about to take a turn nobody is ready for, and the clues have been hiding in plain sight. Fans still see him as adorable baby Yoda, but I think Lucasfilm is quietly preparing him to become something far more complex, far darker, and far more important to the entire future timeline than anyone realises. And if my theory is right, one heartbreaking moment could completely rewrite Grogu's destiny forever. Wait until the end, because the final twist in this theory changes everything we thought we knew about Star Wars' future. Before we dive in, I want to hear from you. Do you want Star Wars to take Grogu in a darker, more mature direction? Or should he stay the cute mascot Lucasfilm has turned him into? The Grogu we were supposed to get. When Grogu first appeared in The Mandalorian, the original plan for the character wasn't just cute, marketable sidekick. He was meant to carry trauma, real trauma, from Order 66, from decades of hiding, and from the horrific experimentation we later learned he endured. Early concept discussions made it clear Grogu's story was going to explore the long-term effects of surviving a genocide. His fear, his confusion, his flashes of panic, his attachment struggles. His Mando bond wasn't meant to be just wholesome. It was supposed to be complicated. But then something happened. Grogu became the face of Star Wars merchandise. Plush toys, backpacks, Funko Pops. He was an absolute money machine. And with that came a shift. A massive one. Disney realised the cute baby Yoda aesthetic was too valuable to risk. And the biggest example of this is the moment Lucasfilm forced Grogu and Mando back together. Not at the end of The Mandalorian Season 3, not in a natural reunion arc, but by hijacking the Book of Boba Fett, just to undo their separation. This is where the real story changed. Grogu's trauma arc was pushed aside. His emotional growth was paused. His Jedi training cut short. His character development frozen, because it wasn't cute anymore. But after multiple disappointing releases and falling engagement, Disney has admitted they need to win back young men, the demographic that originally built Star Wars. And that shift changes everything for Grogu's future. Which raises the next question. If Grogu's cute phase is ending, what version of him are we about to meet next? Grogu's rapid evolution. If Lucasfilm wants to bring back serious fans, Grogu cannot remain an infant-like character forever, and the clearest path forward, the one that I believe they're already setting up, is a major timeline jump. Over the next decade, I think we're going to watch Grogu evolve into a character who mirrors Ezra Bridger's growth in Rebels, but pushed even further. A teenager, more expressive, more conflicted, and finally capable of complex emotional storytelling. Imagine a Grogu who actually speaks, who questions his place in the galaxy, who struggles with the trauma he never got to process. And yes, the theory makes this unavoidable. Grogu will flirt with the dark side. Not a full fall, not a Kylo Ren situation. More like what we saw with Ezra, a slow exploration, a curiosity, a dangerous tension in his identity as he tries to understand who he is. Ezra had the Sith holocron. Grogu, he'll have something far worse. The weight of his own survival and the years he spent powerless. And that brings us to the darkest part of this prediction. What happens when Grogu is finally confronted with the part of the galaxy that shaped his trauma? If you're enjoying this kind of deep dive Star Wars analysis and theory crafting, make sure you hit subscribe. Dathomir, where Grogu's darkness will finally surface. When the war with Thrawn escalates, and all signs show that's exactly where the story is heading, the battles are likely to spill into places filled with raw, ancient darkside power. And Dathomir is at the top of that list. Grogu, already struggling with fear, anger and confusion, would be confronted with the one environment where the dark side doesn't whisper, it screams. Sister's magic. the corrupted life energy, the dark force currents gushing through the soil itself. If Grogu fights in a war on Dathomir, like the setup in Ahsoka hints, he will not leave unchanged. Ezra brushed against the dark side. Grogu could be dragged into it. But here's where the theory goes nuclear. Because the moment that pushes him over the edge isn't a planet, it's a person. What happens when the one anchor Grogu has, the one thing keeping him balanced, is suddenly taken away? The death of Din Djarin, Grogu's breaking point. I believe Lucasfilm is setting up one of the most devastating moments in modern Star Wars storytelling. The sacrifice of Din Djarin in front of Grogu. Star Wars loves one specific type of tragedy. The heroic sacrifice that pushes a young Force user to their limits. This moment would push Grogu beyond heartbreak. It would shatter him, and in that moment, the dark side would offer him exactly what he wants. Power. Power to win. Power to stop the pain. Power to save what's left. We would finally see Grogu unleash everything he's been holding back. Not in anger toward the galaxy, but in a desperate attempt to survive a battle he wasn't ready for. And even though he'd win, it would destroy him mentally. Where does a broken Jedi child, who has just touched real darkness, go next? Exile, Yoda's guidance, and Grogu leaving the galaxy. If Grogu uses the dark side to survive, he won't be able to stay with the New Republic, or the Mandalorians, or even the remaining Jedi. His mind would be fractured, his identity shattered, and at that point, every part of his story points to one destination, Dagobah, not to train, not to hide, but to heal, to confront the dark side within himself, in the same cave that tested Luke, and to speak with the one being who truly understands him, Yoda's Force Ghost. This is where Grogu would begin the journey that defines the rest of his life. And because he's never mentioned in the sequel era, not once, the natural conclusion is this: Grogu will eventually leave the known galaxy entirely, just like Ezra and Thrawn, just like Ahsoka and Sabine may eventually do. Lucasfilm loves this tool. They've used it repeatedly, and it allows Grogu's story to continue without interfering with established canon. Which brings us to the final payoff, the real heart of this theory. If the theory is correct, Grogu is being positioned not as a sidekick, not as a mascot, and definitely not as a plush toy, but as a fully realised, emotionally complex character who mirrors the greatest arcs in Star Wars history. A traumatised survivor, a reluctant warrior, a child who touched the dark side, a wanderer seeking meaning beyond the borders of the galaxy. Grogu may eventually return, decades later, older, wiser, more balanced, but the next phase of his story won't be adorable. It will be tragic, challenging, and deeply human. If you're enjoying these videos, consider becoming a channel member, and let's uncover the galaxy's greatest secrets together. Thanks for watching.